13. The Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt headed north from Rockwood toward Harriman along the base of the Cumberland Escarpment. The mountain ridge loomed large to their left. The dogs with the horses following close on their heels soon found footing just wide enough single file along the train tracks to hit a rolling canter. A dense fog quickly arose, and the hounds' baying echoed from all directions at once as the sound mingled with the thunder. Kenneth blinked in the rain and hoped Bucephalus could see better than he could in the rainy darkness. The only lights he could use to discern the path ahead were the sparks struck by Bloodwine's hooves from each step and the occasional flash of lightning. The streets in Harriman were largely deserted when they got to the city. Odin led them away from the tracks and backtracked up a steep bank before reaching the river. Kenneth recognized the West Hill subdivision entrance as they made the quick turn left onto the paved road and headed up a massive hill. "We're going up the mountain to Buzzard's Bluff?" Kenneth questioned. The only answer from his mount was an ear flicked back. He could feel Bucephalus's powerful rear end dig in and push up the steep incline. When they got to the base of the final climb, they slowed to a walk to give the horses a breather. Skuld dropped Icewings back beside Kenneth. "Stay to the right in the tire tracks next to the rock wall and avoid the ruts," Skuld told him. "The footing is treacherous, especially now with the rainwater gushing through the washouts. It will be slick with red clay on wet pavement in places, and gravel rolling underfoot. We can't let the horses go down. Some of the ruts are belly deep on the steepest portion of our climb. The road is packed clay at the top, but it's okay. Take your time and help Bucephalus watch his footing." "Gotcha." Kenneth nodded in agreement. It had been a while since he was here, but he remembered deep potholes and poor road maintenance. "Any more advice?" Skuld grinned. "Hold on," she answered. "I'll see you at the top." Skuld forged ahead and led the way again. The dogs dropped back and paced alongside. Kenneth laid the reins along his horse's neck and helped the stallion steer around the worst holes as they struggled in the rain up the steep hill. Bucephalus was blowing a little by the time the rain led up to a light misting sprinkle. He saw that the worst of it was mostly below them with a strong wind that rose straight up the whole side of the bluff. His goosebumps told him how chilled he was in his drenched state, but he ignored it, wiped his eyes, and stopped his horse for a brief rest. Though only a half-moon shone above them, their path was brightly lit. It contrasted pleasantly with the darkness they'd traveled through so far. When Bucephalus's breathing slowed, they continued the climb. The footing here was looser, where water from the rain cascaded off the rocks above them. Mud and stones had washed into the road. Kenneth let go of the reins with one hand to stroke the horse's neck for encouragement when he was nearly unseated. A grinding crunch sounded underneath them as Bucephalus's left shoulder went out from underneath him in a sliding stumble. "Skuld, hold! There's a problem back here," he yelled ahead of them as Bucephalus came up limping. "We're gonna have to stop," he muttered to his horse. Bucephalus snorted and shook his mane, scattering water over his rider. He took 2 more stumbling steps and nearly went down again, but refused to stop. Instead, he set his head, determined to keep going despite the sharp stone that was firmly wedged in the frog of his front left heel. "I said stop!" Kenneth growled at the horse. "Now isn't the time to be stubborn. You can do that later on your own terms." Kenneth slid down off the saddle and nearly fell himself on the slick footing as muddy gravel rolled underfoot. He realized Bucephalus was holding his left front hoof up. "Let me see," Kenneth coaxed. He ran his hands down the horse's muddy leg and prodded the groove in the sole of his foot until he found the stone. Bucephalus pulled his foot away and set it down firmly. Kenneth somehow wasn't surprised at the stallion's determined huff. "No," Kenneth said. "We have to get that out before you go anywhere." Bucephalus's answer was a sassy toss of his heavily maned head. The horse looked up the hill with his ears pricked as a red horse approached out of the darkness. Odin on Bloodwine loomed over them, but suddenly they were not what the teens saw. Kenneth shook his head as a vision flashed so strongly it nearly set him back on his heels. It came to his mind's eye in full living color. "Bring me that mare with the blaze," Alexander ordered, and the relieved groom hurried off. Alexander rose and caressed Bucephalus's neck, feeling the hardness of the muscles. "You're gonna have to sit this one out," Alexander whispered to his horse regretfully. "You need to take it easy on that leg, so you don't end up with a bowed tendon." The black horse turned his one blue eye on his rider and blew softly with a disapproving look. He stretched out, lowering his back for Alexander to mount. "Not today." Alexander patted him with finality and turned away. "We will ride together another day," he told Bucephalus. He looked up to see his orders had been carried out. "Ah, yes, this will do." The red mare that he had indicated he would ride was led to him. She was sturdy but sleek, with a fineness about her that spoke of speed and good breeding. He had his back turned to his stallion and did not see what the men standing in front of him saw when Alexander picked up his pad and placed it on the mare's back. They began shouting a warning, too late. Unrestrained, Bucephalus realized that another horse was to carry his beloved Alexander, spun in place with his ears flattened and teeth bared. He avoided hitting Alexander with his hooves as he reared and grabbed the mare's throat in his teeth and bore her to the ground. Men and horses scattered, trying to put distance between themselves and Alexander's furious warhorse. Alexander stood still, watching thoughtfully, not wanting to waste a good mare. He stepped forward as Bucephalus held onto the other horse's throat until her eyes started rolling back in her head. The red mare was helpless. "Bucephalus!" Alexander shouted at his horse. "Let go!" He commanded it in a tone that made men jump and stand at attention in fright. Bucephalus merely cocked an ear and grudgingly released the mare, who lay panting for several moments. The whites of her eyes still showed as she was slowly encouraged to her feet by Alexander, who didn't stop to contemplate any further. He waved her away, picked up his pad, and placed it on the stallion's back. "I should kick your ass for that," he muttered to the horse. "You're too damned stubborn for your own good. I'd like to get you home in one piece, not run you into the ground." Alexander grabbed his horse's head and planted a kiss on his nose. "But if you insist on being an idiot, we have places to go. If your leg is hurt, you are going to just have to suck it up. We can't stop again until we're out of these mountains, and we may have to fight our way clear to Zadrakarta." Kenneth shook his head to clear it and bring himself back to the present. He set his mouth in a grim line. "Stubborn. Always," he muttered. "Let me see if there's a hoof-pick in the pack." A quick search turned up empty. "Wrong pack," Odin told him. "Chuck the other side under the flaps." Kenneth found what he was looking for and took hold of Bucephalus's hoof in a firm grip. A grinding sound came from the horse's hoof as the hoof-pick pried the sharp stone out. He wiped his hands and the pick before he stuck it in his pocket. Then, rather than have his mount go down again, Kenneth took the horse's head and led him on foot to guide him carefully out of the worst of the debris. For several more minutes, they followed the road as it wound along the spine of the mountain toward the bluff. It seemed with every step that the moonlight got brighter until they reached the area where the trees opened up at the bluff. Looking down, they could see the lights like hundreds of fireflies in the night sprinkled along the valley's hills over Harriman and Rockwood. A layer of fog softened the angles and curves of the landscape and gave even the interstate traffic an eerie glow. Kenneth might have appreciated the breathtaking view more, except he knew they weren't here for the scenery. When they reached the top, Kenneth remounted his horse. "Now what?" he asked Skuld. "We're at the end of the road." "No, we are at the beginning," Skuld told him, and pointed up. The moon hung directly over the drop-off. Arenel's silvery serpentine shape danced through the churning clouds below the bluff. An impossibly stiff wind was rising harder as it blew straight up. The moonlight filtered through the mist on fluffy white clouds, reflecting it even stronger. As he watched, a ring formed in the air around the moon. Impossibly, he could see brilliant rainbow colors as a rare phenomenon called a moonbow appeared in the air in front of them. Kenneth drew his breath at the sight, but he eyed the lights of the interstate traffic he could see far below. Roxy turned to look at him, barked once, ran at the edge of the rocks, and jumped. The rest of the pack followed quickly off the edge. Bloodwine reared and made a mighty leap up. For a moment he hovered. Then, with his hooves still striking sparks like lightning in midair, he continued up and disappeared. Kenneth groaned as Bucephalus gathered himself, seeing where the others were going. "Is it too late to mention I don't like heights?" Kenneth sat back and found himself pulling back involuntarily on the reins. In response, Bucephalus backed several quick steps. When Icewing also jumped, and his snow-white wings caught the air currents, Bucephalus dropped his head, dug in, and pulled the reins loose from his rider's hands. The big black stallion charged forward and left the bluff's edge at full gallop, with Kenneth holding on to the neck strap in a vice grip. Knowing it shouldn't be possible, Kenneth nearly jumped out of his skin when Bucephalus also spread ebony wings with a furious snap and was lifted upward toward the ring of colored light by the rising wind current. Bucephalus glided through the storm-driven atmospheric portal in the astral veil with several strong wing beats. They emerged onto the rainbow bridge in the space between. A riot of brilliant color and bright light hit Kenneth's eyes as soon as he crossed to the other side. "What the?" A wave of dizziness nearly sent him reeling as the act of crossing over also stripped all memory blocks and filters from his mind. Bucephalus simultaneously finally found his brakes and slid to a slightly bouncy stop. At first, his watering eyes and confusion kept Kenneth from realizing the two tall, dark-colored figures barring further progress, with crossed spear and crook, were actually there. Bucephalus, blowing hard from the effort of getting them to that point, also stood shaking his head to clear it. Feeling Kenneth reeling on his back, he kept his wings raised to help prevent his rider from falling. Memories from many places and times, identities and names, families, struggles and tragedies, and past loves and losses hit them simultaneously. Bucephalus, wearing the skin of a horse, once again remembered leading the charge into battle with Alexander, urging him to fight. He reared to his full height, bugling an aggressive challenge. The Macedonian language came to Kenneth's lips unbidden, challenging the English, Latin, Scandinavian, German, and Japanese that were all crowding in together. "Bucephalus, Prestenant," he scolded his stallion. "Taishi, nein, no! Let me get my bearings, would you? God, I didn't expect that." He struggled with writing the language he was speaking along with his spinning head. He blinked several times and rubbed his eyes, which began to adjust to the fact that he could see color for the first time in his current incarnation. The figures that blocked his way still stood there, expectantly. "More gods," Kenneth observed. "Am I supposed to bow or something? 'Cause it's a little hard from the back of a horse." Bucephalus shook his head, making his thick mane fall to both sides. Bowing his neck, he extended his wings to their full span, and then folded them back down into himself. He nickered softly to the figure standing in front of them. To the right of them, Anubis chuckled, and on the left, Set simply grinned, flashing very sharp teeth. They both lowered their weapons. "Once again, at the turning of the age, the champions come forth. I hope for all our sakes that this turn is not as disastrous as the first," Anubis said. Bucephalus, recognizing him, paced forward and shoved his head into the god. In response, Anubis wrapped his arm around the reddish-black stallion's head affectionately and reached out with his other hand, producing a green apple. "It's good to see you too, Miamere." Anubis ruffled Bucephalus's forelock as the horse made sloppy, drooling work of the apple. "Don't fear," Anubis said to Kenneth. It is an earthly apple from a wild orchard. It will not force Bucephalus to stay. Your arrival was expected. Set, still grinning toothfully, looked Kenneth up and down. My, how far you've come, and many miles yet to go. Are you sure you're ready for this? Kenneth bared his teeth as well, responding with a slight smile. Am I ready? Well, let's see. At this point, I've been run over, nearly drowned, blasted by lava, attacked by a demon, and now I jumped off a cliff. I think I can handle about anything. It was Set's turn to chuckle. I would expect no less from any of my warrior elite, he said, which is why I felt it appropriate to meet you here myself. I still have and protect what belongs to you. As you are on this perilous quest, you may decide you want them returned to you. Kenneth felt a rise of distaste. Deep inside, he felt a coldness in his soul where his loss had been far too great to bear. He knew what Set offered as he had at the moment the full memory of how, and more importantly why, Set held them. Still, the teen waited, knowing that this was part of the ceremony and the choice made of his own free will. Set moved another step forward and came within reach of Kenneth. In one hand he held a sharpened gold and bronze khopesh. With the other, Set carefully held a beating heart. As you have requested many Earth years ago in Egypt, I have kept these safe for you. As of this moment, you have a choice. You may take one, or you may take both. However, you will be unable to set them down again until your duty is done, Set told him. Kenneth still calmly sat his horse. He reached out and took his sword from the patron of warriors. You can keep that other thing for now. I don't need that where I'm going, he said. Very soon I will be joining the American military, and it would again just be in the way of my duty. It is indeed your choice, as it always was. But there are times when even warriors find they need their heart. Eventually, you must take it. You can change your mind. Call on it at any time, Set responded and stepped back. Go with my blessings and our Heavenly Father's blessings. Kenneth nodded and saluted with the khopesh. They moved forward to rejoin Skuld. Anubis stood beside his brother and watched them ride away. He is not whole. Are you certain of this, Lord Set? Set replied, He is certain. For this moment, it is all that matters. The wheel turns. The threads of fate have been laid before them. Anubis nodded. Many possibilities remain, and they must be free to choose. Set has always chosen, Set replied. I would have him no other way. Kenneth's head had mostly stopped spinning by the time they caught up with Skuld and Odin. Roxy had dropped back out of the pack to pace them. She raced ahead again, sniffing. So, now, how do we find what we're looking for? Kenneth asked. Are we just following where the dog leads, or are we supposed to do something? Yes and yes, Odin told him. Roxy will take the lead. Now that the power of the Wild Hunt has allowed you to cross the veil without physical death, the whole pack is unnecessary. For the duration, due to the nature of the quest, you will mostly operate on this side of reality. Roxy's guidance will allow you to jump between and across the spaces of existence. But you must also hunt, use your wits, and make decisions. Skuld will go with you part way. Do not rely on her, or you will not succeed. As you have already observed, it is a tool forged by the hand of man, and the rules of the Prime Creator forbid any of us to interfere with you or touch the spear of destiny ourselves. Skuld nodded in agreement. She continued the conversation where Odin left off. I am your support. partly for safety. Despite what you may think should be, the lower paths are riddled with mists of confusion, and if you happen upon the river Styx or Lethe, you will be lost to us. To try to cross either without the aid of the ferryman would mean soul death. Additionally, not all demoni are confined to what you call hell or wandering the earth plane. The multiverse is a vast place, Skuld said. These creatures are born not just darkness, but the kind of evil darkness that was never meant to be created. Most fallen ones are scattered, but they are not the only dark spirits corrupted by or born of this devouring evil. Some find their way to the paths and hide between what you understand as real space. They will seek to devour anything they believe is easy prey on the paths, including wandering or lost souls, or those demoni who are weaker than they in their quest for power. Odin chimed back in. Skuld will see it to ya. He smiled. Fate on your side is no small thing. He chuckled. Where will you be? Kenneth asked. I have to go. Odin smiled at the teen fondly. I have some business to dispense. They watched Odin ride away. Bloodwine's hooves struck sparks on the stones with his passing. He was out of sight when Skuld drew Kenneth's attention to her. Now that you understand the risks, I will tell you what you have to do and why, Skuld said. Several layers of protection guard the spear. Some are physical, and some are arcane. Even though the Spear of Destiny is indeed in the mortal world, it would be impossible to reach it quickly, much less possess it. Even though this is a shortcut, so to speak, it will seem longer. Skuld continued. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly where the Spear of Destiny is myself, but I can tell you that you have to go through a series of tests. This is not just to see if you are worthy, but in a more practical sense, to trip a certain set of arcane triggers that together will open up the final destination for you. You have to trip 7 triggers according to the message brought to us by the Archangel. You will follow the dog. She will not be able to sniff out the next step until the present one is reached and done properly. Oh, I get it. Like a video game. Kenneth brightened. This ought to be fun. Skuld just stared at him. In this video game, you don't get a do-over. There are no extra lives, so don't screw it up, she told him sternly. You only have the life you came with. Although you may have the extra boost from Idun's apple, your beloved horse does not. Her eyebrows raised. Take care of your mount, and Bucephalus can take care of you. But also take care not to harm the harmless on the moon paths. Got it. No pressure. Kenneth nodded, grinning. Where do we start? The road is ahead of you. It's up to you, your horse, and the dog to work this out, Skuld answered him. You will have to work as a team. To remind you again, I am only along as an observer and an extra defender if it becomes necessary. Kenneth thought about what she said. Her clothing changed to a full set of heavily studded white armor as he watched. She practically glowed with light. The team remembered the dark poison the demon had left behind at the rest stop in the hotel. Skuld's get-up made him realize how lightly protected he was and how naked his horse was. He shrugged his shoulders. All joking aside, I will take it seriously, he told the power who was choosing to help them. Thank you for your assistance. Skuld nodded her head and said no more. She sat back in her saddle on Icewing's back. She waited with a long silver spear balanced across her lap.